Donald Trump signs his big, beautiful bill into law on America's 250th anniversary. And China and France settled their cognac duty dispute. The massive earthquake predicted earlier by a Japanese comic artist has not happened in Japan so far today. However, the so-called prediction has sparked concerns for some Hong Kongers who wish to buy a property there. This as the Japanese government earlier raised the estimated probability of a megaquake occurring in the Nankai Trough within the next 30 years. Samantha Lee has details.
The plot of a Japanese manga sparked fears a major earthquake could strike Japan on July 5th. However, on this day, all was calm in Tokyo. Some visitors to Japan's capital said they were not panicking at all.
You know, a rumour is a rumour, it's not fact, so I didn't really take much notice of it. So the fact that it hasn't happened doesn't really surprise me. Yeah, like I said, I didn't, unless somebody tells me scientifically, it's a fact, this is going to happen, or there's a high possibility that it's going to happen, then I wouldn't really take much notice of it.
Although the megaquake did not happen as predicted, some TV broadcasters aired news related to earthquakes in the Nankai Trough. The Japanese government earlier estimated the chance of a megaquake occurring in the Nankai Trough within the next 30 years will increase to approximately 80%. It is expected that the quake may trigger a tsunami reaching up to 34 meters in height, with the potential to kill about 320,000 people. Residents in 29 prefectures of Japan, including Tokyo and Okinawa, have been urged to prepare for evacuation. Ms. Meg, a Hong Konger who works in Tokyo, was asked to think twice before buying a property in Japan.
沿海係有佢嘅危險性嘅。
Despite the quake-proof design features, she expressed concern buildings in coastal areas may not be able to resist megaquakes. She said she prefers houses at higher elevations and on solid ground. The Japanese central government has instructed municipal officials to draft emergency plans as part of preparations for potential massive quakes. This will incorporate conducting evacuation drills and stockpiling supplies. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The standby signal number 1 is in effect and is expected to remain today with a low chance of being upgraded. Severe tropical storm Danis is currently located at about 400 kilometers east-southeast of Hong Kong. It is forecast to move towards the Taiwan Strait, departing from Hong Kong gradually. The Hong Kong Observatory says when Danis no longer poses a threat to the city, all tropical cyclone warning signals will be cancelled. But extremely hot weather is expected in the region over the next few days. U.S. President Donald Trump used July 4th Independence Day fervor to celebrate the passing of his big, beautiful bill by Congress. He said the massive package will save America, while opponents say it will marginalize the poor and benefit the rich. Now, Kareem with more.
A triumphant U.S. President Donald Trump claiming rights to America's year-long 250th anniversary celebrations on the back of victories in Congress and in foreign policy. The party started in Des Moines, Iowa, hours after the House of Representatives passed his big, beautiful bill, which he says fixes wrongs of previous presidents Joe Biden and Barack Obama.
There could be no better birthday present for America than the phenomenal victory we achieved just hours ago when Congress passed the one big, beautiful bill to make America great again. Right? We've saved our country. We've got the hottest country anywhere in the world, as said by many, many leaders of other countries.
The sound of fireworks caused a moment of uncertainty 10 days before the first anniversary of an assassination attempt on Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Don't worry, it's only fireworks, I hope. Famous last words. My famous last words. Trump said, don't worry, it's only fireworks. You always have to think positive. I didn't like that sound either. The golden age of America is upon us.
The next day, July 4th, Trump was at the White House for the actual signing. Flanked by Republican lawmakers and cabinet members, Trump signed the multi-trillion-dollar package into law, banging down the same gavel used by House Speaker Mike Johnson in the bill's final passage. The bill passed the House 218 to 214, all Democrats voting against it along with 2 Republicans. Non-partisans say it will add more than $3 trillion to the national debt of $36.2 trillion. After the signing, Trump and supporters gathered at the White House South Lawn, enjoying a flypast by fighter jets and a B-2 bomber that dropped bunker-busting bombs on Iranian nuclear sites last month.
But we made promises, and it's really promises made, promises kept, and we've kept them. This is a triumph of democracy on the birthday of democracy. I think had probably the most successful almost 6 months as a president and the presidency. I think they're saying it was the best 6 months, and I know for a fact they're saying the last 2 weeks there has never been anything like it as far as winning, winning, winning.
While Trump claims a win, Democrats say his bill has lost the Republicans their majority in both chambers when the next congressional elections come around in November 2026. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
U.S. President Donald Trump said he has signed letters to 12 countries outlining the various tariff levels they would face on goods they export to the United States. The take it or leave it offers will be sent out on Monday. Trump also said he will start talking to China, perhaps President Xi Jinping or one of his representatives on Monday or Tuesday about a possible TikTok deal. Danny Rao tells us more.
Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One en route to New Jersey, U.S. President Donald Trump declined to name the countries that were sent the take-it-or-leave-it offers. He said they'll be made public on Monday. In April, Trump announced a 10% base tariff rate and additional amounts for most countries, some ranging as high as 50%. However, all but the 10% base rate was subsequently suspended for 90 days to allow more time for negotiations to secure deals. That period ends on July 9th. Although Trump said on Friday the tariffs could be even higher, ranging up to 70%, with most set to go into effect on August 1st. Trump and his top aides initially said they would launch negotiations with scores of countries on tariff rates. However, his administration has suffered repeated setbacks in negotiations with major trading partners. The only trade agreements Trump's administration has reached to date are with Britain and Vietnam. EU diplomats on Friday said they have failed to achieve a breakthrough and may now seek to extend the status quo to avoid tariff hikes. India has outlined it is ready to slash its high tariff rates for the US, but has not conceded on demands to open up the country's agriculture and dairy sectors. Trump also said he'll start talking to China on Monday or Tuesday about a possible TikTok deal. He said the United States pretty much has a deal on the sale of the short video app. Last month, Trump extended a deadline for China-based ByteDance to divest the US assets of TikTok to September 17th. A deal had been in the works this spring to spin off TikTok's US operations into a new US-based firm, majority owned and operated by US investors. However, the deal was put on hold after China indicated it would not approve it, following Trump's announcements of steep tariffs on Chinese goods. Trump said the United States will probably have to get a deal approved by China. Dan Rao, TV News.
On the last leg of his current visit to Europe, Foreign Minister Wang Yi arrived in France from Germany and met French President Emmanuel Macron. Wang said China and the EU will have resolved the brandy import issue through negotiations, while urging Europe to adopt a correct understanding of China.
Foreign Minister Wang Yi arrived in Paris, the last stop of his Europe tour, where he met with French President Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace. Noting that China and France are comprehensive strategic partners and two stabilizing forces in the world, Wang said China is willing to deepen mutually beneficial cooperation with France. He hopes France will encourage the EU to properly handle China-EU trade disputes. Macron meanwhile said France highly values its relations with China and welcomes increased Chinese investment in France. Wang Yi also visited the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, holding talks with Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot and co-chairing a meeting on people-to-people exchanges. The two sides reached some 30 agreements to enhance cooperation in higher education, culture, sports, and science. China imposed nearly 35% anti-dumping duties on EU-origin brandy. Several French cognac producers signed agreements to raise prices in China so as to be exempt from taxes. Both Wang and his French counterpart touted that as a good resolution.
中欧双方通过友好协商
Wang said through friendly consultations, China is willing to import more high-quality French products and support Chinese enterprises investing in France, while expressing confidence that France will provide a fair, transparent, and non-discriminatory business environment for Chinese firms. Wang Yi noted that as permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and France should take responsibility and resolve Middle East conflicts through dialogue and negotiation.
Hamas says it has responded positively to the latest U.S. brokered ceasefire proposal, according to a statement on the Palestinian group's website. But the group says further talks are needed. Blasts and explosions on the horizon in Gaza throughout the day, despite rising expectations of an imminent truce. U.S. President Donald Trump says Israel has accepted a 60-day peace plan. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is due in Washington next week for talks, but his military continues to hunt down Hamas targets in the enclave. Relatives of the 50 Israeli hostages still in Gaza held the weekly rally. Only about half of the hostages are thought to be alive. They appealed directly to Trump to bring their loved ones home. And still ahead, the Shandong aircraft carrier strike group opens to the public. A hiker falls to his death after collapsing in Chateaucoq. And 4 people sent to hospital after a commuter pressed the emergency stop button of an escalator at Lambton MTR station. Welcome back. China's Shandong aircraft carrier and its accompanying warships today opened to the public during their Hong Kong visit. Ticket holders boarded the vessels for an up-close look. Celine Chan tells us more.
Only the 2,000 lucky stars with pre-issued tickets have the opportunity to step aboard the Shandong when it opens to the public today and tomorrow. Eager visitors arrived as early as 7:30 this morning at Central Pier No. 1, lining up for over an hour before getting on shuttle boats. Security checks prohibited bringing liquids on board. Large professional cameras had to be sealed in transparent bags and stored in lockers. A welcoming banner came into view as the shuttle approached the carrier's anchorage in Victoria Harbour's western zone. Visitors crossed a gangway to board the aircraft carrier. The tour began in the cabinet's hangar showcasing weapons and equipment. Then many rode the elevator platform up to the flight deck for the moment they had been waiting for. J-15 and J-15T fighter jets immediately stole the show. This kid says the fighter jets are shockingly long and finds them cool and massive. Navy personnel ramped up the energy and led the crowds in singing patriotic songs, turning the deck into an impromptu party. Ms. Lian, a crew member of the warship, says local residents' enthusiasm has fired them up too. 2 other vessels in the strike group, the guided missile destroyer Zhanjiang and the guided missile frigate Yuncheng, opened to the public at the Ngongshen Chao Naval Base. For those who missed out, workarounds emerged. Tsingy Road was packed with residents and tourists who wished to get a glimpse of the Shandong's splendor. While some took the high road, others took the wet one. Nearly 300 tourism industry representatives boarded the pearl of the Orient sightseeing boat to get a close-up view of the aircraft carrier. The operator reported triple the usual demand, with all cruises fully booked during the Shandong's visit.
Although they can't go in, to have the visit by themselves on site, but it's really good for the visitors to have a quick look, surrounding the vessel.
So, how do you take the best photo?
Remember to adjust the angle right and you'll be able to capture the most iconic parts of the warship, its island and its hull number 17. Celine Chan, TVB News.
A man in his 30s died after collapsing on a trail in Chateaucoq. The hiker was airlifted to the Eastern Hospital by helicopter. He went hiking with a group of around 10 people at San Kwai Tin in Lin Ma Hang. At around 1 p.m., he was suspected of falling from a gorge after losing his footing. He was pronounced dead soon after being taken to hospital. The cause of the incident is under investigation. 4 commuters were sent to hospital after falling on an escalator at Lambton MTR station. MTR and police officers are investigating the scene. Engineers carried out repairs at the escalator near Lambton MTR station's exit D. Police said they received the report at 1:30 p.m. when 4 people were slightly injured after falling on the upward escalator. They were all sent to United Christian Hospital. The MTR said a commuter pressed the emergency stop button after a man fell and hit his mother and the other 2 women. The escalator resumed service an hour after the incident. At least 24 people are dead after a flash flood in Texas. The Guadalupe River rose 3 stories in about an hour and burst its banks. A summer camp was taking place along the waterway. Children are among the dead and dozens are missing. David Garrett reports.
Water submerging tree trunks, the Guadalupe River reaching a depth of nearly 8 meters in about an hour. 3 stories of water crashing through a normally dry area. The level almost up to the cars on the flyover, with reports that elsewhere roads and vehicles were swept away. The deadly destruction being compared to a tsunami. As the Guadalupe burst its bank, a 4th of July summer camp for 750 girls was taking place on the riverbank. The torrent came at 1:30 a.m. Many in the camp were asleep and swept away. Some are dead, many are missing.
There's a lot of discussion about casualties, how many fatalities, a lot of discussion about how many people are missing. And I've been advised not to use any numbers, but suffice it to say this has been a very devastating and deadly flood.
3 months of rain dropped in one evening, 12 inches or nearly 30 centimetres of rainfall in a few hours. The river went from 3 feet to 30 feet deep. Experts say it's improbable to predict and impossible to stop.
This is not like a hurricane where you're planning weeks in advance. You know, it hit hard, and things like this happen in a very strategic, very isolated area. And when those 2 things converged, you had what happened today. So this happened within less than a 2-hour span, very, very quickly.
As some parents anxiously waited for news from Camp Mystic, some children were seen returning. Young survivors in shock wander back from the Christian gathering, some unclear what had happened. Parents trying to comfort them with friends missing. Others were taken to hospital. Helicopters flew in to pluck people out of the water and rescue some others who'd managed to scurry up trees. Such was the speed and force of the water surge, the helicopters could not arrive quickly enough to save some.
We don't know who they are. We're having to have fingerprint them at the funeral home.
As the wait goes on for some in Kerr County, in other areas of Texas Hill Country, it's a clean-up operation. Water gushed into Erin Burgess's home. She could do little to stop it. Lounges and hallways ankle-deep in sludge in a matter of minutes. One mobile home nearly washed away completely, leaning precariously against a tree. David Garrett, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.